In alhamdulillah, wa salat, wa salam ala wa rasulullah. I'd like to welcome everybody to our series entitled The Human Brain. This is what it's basically on the effects of the human brain to our body and what we're feeding our brain. And alhamdulillah, many of you, mashallah, walaikum salam, many of you have asked for Dr. McBride to address anxiety because most of us suffer with some form of either general, or specific type of anxiety. So inshallah, that's going to be the focus of tonight's topic. So I'm going to turn that over to Dr. McBride, inshallah, and you can get started whenever you are ready.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Let's start today's lecture with a short review of the strengths and weaknesses of the right and left hemisphere. So much of what we have going on is literally stronger than the other. We mentioned last week about lateral inhibition and a few ideas that if I want to focus on achieving a goal right now, short-term attention, my left brain is fired while my right brain is firing also to inhibit any distractions. So that's lateral inhibition. Your whole brain is working the whole time with the idea of functional disconnect syndrome and problems with laterality, the right and left hemisphere. If one side is stronger or on the go more, now we'll say stronger. If one side is stronger, that means that's taking over, doing more, and the other side isn't able to inhibit, regardless of what it is, whether it's the right or left side, okay? So I'm going to review right and left hemisphericity in the sense of we're going to talk about behavior and the emotions and what they're both good at. So let's start with the left brain, and we'll talk about the left brain. The main thing about the left brain is the approach behavior in the left brain. What you have is this is the initiation side and this is the go side. The left brain emotions: happiness, surprise, curiosity, and anger. Because left brain is curious. It's go. It's initiation. Okay, that's why curiosity is in there. It's happiness it got its way, surprise that it didn't, and then really angry because it didn't get its way. But these are actually considered, and curiosity, of course, these are considered positive emotions if they benefit society. Happiness, obviously, curiosity, surprise, because you're looking for new things and you're surprised you found it. There you go, and you're pleased with that. And even anger can be a good emotion if you can control it. It allows you, maybe you're frustrated a little bit, so you work harder at work to get that promotion. You pay more attention to your kids. You pay more attention to your spouse. You put more effort into something to get the reward and the benefit you want, because the left side is very reward driven. Okay, so that's how anger can benefit society. We see a bad example is of a left brain is a recently reelected overweight guy. All we see is happiness he got his way, surprise he didn't, and then he's really, really angry that he didn't, and that surprise unsettles him. That's really strong song, corrupted left, actually corrupted, and nothing going on the right side in terms of inhibition and self-awareness, community awareness. Also, let's move into left brain and the habits or the strengths of a left brain. The left brain, it allows them to focus on details about everything. Very detail oriented, very motor driven, okay? Action oriented. Go, initiate, seek, achieve, rewards. It's very important to fine motor skills. That's why most of us, our motor skills are on the left-hand side of the brain. You've got Broca's area is up here. You've got Wernicke's over here. On the other side, the matching areas, you've got comprehension, big picture understanding of what those words mean. On this side, you've got the word definition. Over here, you understand and comprehend what the writer meant, not just the action steps that were taken, if that makes sense. That's how they work together. The left brain is also, like I said, fine motor skills. There's nothing more challenging. Handwriting is hard. Good handwriting is very hard. But speaking, think about the fine motor skills we have to use when we're actually talking. You're trying to coordinate the muscles of the mouth. You're trying to coordinate the muscles of the tongue. You're trying to get your respiration in and out, the timing correctly. I do a lot of head movement and hand movement. Those are all fine motor skills, okay? So the left brain is really the majority of fine motor skills get the left brain's attention, okay? What else do we have? We have, it's very controlling the right side of the body. We've talked about that. It likes patterns. That's why it's surprised and it finds frustrating when it's been doing something. Imagine the extreme, an autistic child, and they do not want to stop this until they're done. Whatever their pattern they're following. That's why left brain people really like video games. They look for the patterns, they figure it out, and it's short-term reward achievement. Very linear, very goal directed, and it can be short-term goals. You've got reward seeking, verbal skills, reading skills, writing skills, math skills, detailed muscle control we just discussed. And again, the emotions are based on approach behavior, motivation, and like I said, happiness and joy. And joy is shared with the right side, anger, and like I said, that short-term goal direction. If you don't have the right side balancing it, it's not just goal directed, but it can be very selfish as compared to the right side of the brain is very socially oriented and big picture. Now let's go to the right brain. The right brain is all about avoidance behavior. It's about inhibition, stopping. Your right brain, remember your right brain, not that the left brain is off, but your right brain is on automatic. It's always in there. It's always on. When you walk into a room, the first thing you do is look around. We've talked about this before. You look around to check out the environment, make sure you're safe. That's how we survive. Maybe in today's society, you want to see the emotions of the room and the social context or what people are discussing, and you want to try to fit in with that, okay, so that you are safe, all right? So the right brain, emotions, disgust, fear, shame, empathy, self-awareness, and self-awareness is the basis for others' awareness. I know how that makes me feel, so now I can better relate to how someone else feels and how I can help them feel better as managing and keeping myself in society. These are considered avoidance emotions or negative emotions only in the sense that it allows us to pull back if we have to, the negative feelings, if we can say it that way, to avoid disrupting society and to avoid being pushed out or ostracized from society. We're trying, the right side is the social brain. And like I said, the left side is the selfish brain. As long as they're balanced, it's okay to be hugely successful and goal-oriented and then turn around like giving zakat. Poor people can't give zakat, right? Or we may want to. We can give our time, but we can't give money. So think about if that's in perfect balance, you can be driven to make lots and lots of money so that you can give lots and lots of charity and benefit society that way. Come up with new ideas, come up with brilliant ideas. The whole Einstein and solving all those E equals MC squared. We also go over into the right brain and what that focuses on. That focuses on the big picture. And we're going to have, inshallah, we're going to give a talk about using the brain to achieve your goals, how to set goals using brain function and the neurology of the brain to make goal setting easier. Because remember, we're human beings. We wouldn't have survived this long if we didn't know how to achieve our goals. And I know goal achieving can be hard for a lot of us, but not if you know how. And one of these days, inshallah, I've got the lecture almost prepared to do a lecture on goal setting and how we can use both the neurology of the right side and the neurological function of the left side to achieve your goals and make the plan that'll help you do that. Remember, back to the right brain. The right brain is large muscle control. It's left body muscular actions, left muscular control, and there's an overlap. The right side tends to be able to help on both sides if we have a problem on the left. It's also really important in nonverbal communication. I use the example of humans and animals. If you smile, a little weird looking with that one, but imagine if I'm smiling at a dog and I'm down low and I'm in its face. Well, animals may take that as showing my teeth and it's a threat. If I look at you and I never show my teeth, you're going to think it's a threat and I'm angry. So there's a difference with just smiling and self-awareness and others' awareness. That's the nonverbal communication. The right brain, that's one of the huge strengths of the right brain, is nonverbal communication. Again, if we jump over to autism and a little out on the spectrum on that side, one of the big things about autistic kids, and I think I told you this story before, a patient of mine on the spectrum, real nice kid. Oh my God, so polite, real friendly, had learned how to use the correct tones, but he didn't look at me. When we were talking during his history, when I was asking him, when I'd adjust him, he didn't look at me. And that was frustrating. I'm pointing. That was frustrating to his mother sitting in the chair there. And she kept reminding him to look at the doctor. And I told her, I said, not to be rude, but the fact that he's paying attention to me, he's responding appropriately, and we're engaged, he doesn't have to look at me because he doesn't think that's necessary. He's not looking at me to see my response, and he doesn't think he has to look at me so that I see his response because he talked to me. He could hear me. When autistic or on a little more outside on the spectrum, it's really cool. Research shows that autistic kids or autistic people and way out, a little more than just I can't say little or a lot, but as you move out on the spectrum, the farther out you are, the more likely you are to not look at the eyes and the face as a whole for expression. They tend to look at the mouth. And some of the belief is that's where the words come. So they're looking at what's important. And they don't understand the whole nonverbal communication part where I'm looking at the eyes, looking at the face, smiling, sad, angry, furrowed brows, to figure out what context the sentence is being made in. The right brain, that's the huge right side. Like I said, the left side, great verbal skills, definitions, word finding, problem solving, but not big picture understanding. No sarcasm, no metaphors. They know exactly what the characters in the book did, but they don't know why, if that makes sense. The big picture is here. The exact definition is here. They can tell you exactly what happened, but they don't know why they did it or why the author had them, why they wrote that in. And like I said, a huge thing is the self-awareness. Again, as we move farther and farther out on the spectrum, there are whole books written by kids that have improved. And they talk about when they were children, they never felt hungry. I remember there's a story about one boy in India. He wrote a book, real popular book. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. But one of the things he mentions is that he didn't feel himself have personal sensations until he got in the shower and he could feel the warm water running on him. That's when he felt himself. That's when he knew he had a body. That's when he was aware of himself. They may not smell well. They may not sense hunger and thirst. A lot of times, what we may generally say, kids that bang their heads, they don't feel pain. They don't feel things. So they're trying to stimulate that sensation, some sensation, okay? To maybe they're not aware of it, but they don't have that self-awareness. And that's a right brain strength, is being self-aware. And we'll talk about these strengths and how they can be how they can become weaknesses if there's not a hemispheric balance. But that's hugely important, self-awareness, because if I'm not aware of what hurts my feelings or what physically hurts, then I wouldn't be aware that the way I say things, the way I do things might hurt you also. Remember, there are two different basic approach patterns or platforms. We've got approach, that's the left brain, positive, goal seeking, happy, all that stuff. Avoidance is the right brain. You want to be safe, you want to survive. Sadness could fall under being very empathetic. Fear could be fall under the skill set of survival. I'm afraid of the dark. I'm afraid of that noise. I'm afraid of that smell. So fear is related to survival. That's how the right brain keeps us going. Disgust, shame, guilt, remorseful, those are all empathy, and that's good social group emotions. That's surviving in your group. So that's why they are strengths. And in the left, you've got the go attitude, the initiation, you've got happiness, you've got seeking novelty, surprise, curiosity. All of those help you strive to achieve something as long as the two hemispheres are balanced. And that leads us right into our first shortcoming. Imagine there's a real cool term, love this term, metacognition. This is more related to the right brain and self-awareness. The ability to self-judge, the ability to accurately judge your own actions, how they relate to society, to make accurate assessments of what you say, of what you do. The self-awareness side. People like narcissists, sociopaths, and psychopaths really lack this. Almost all those psychopathies are left brain problems with a right brain, or it could be a right brain decrease, and the left brain is out there out of control, just acting without emotion, doing whatever it wants to. The right brain also has the moral compass. The moral compass, that is great when the left brain can explain everything to the right brain. As the right brain starts to get too emotionally involved, scary movies, crying at movies, the left brain kicks in and says, "Oh, why are you crying? It's only a movie. It's not real." Okay. Or scared, the left brain kicks in and, "Oh, why'd you jump?" When my mother and I watch, I'm not a big fan of scary movies, but we always laugh because she jumps all the time. And if we're sitting in the living room, there's no reason to be afraid, if that makes sense. So my left brain kicks in, and then I start laughing and she laughs with me, and there we are. But she's the one that gets scared all the time. So again, a left brain strength, though, is going to imagine those strengths with a left brain logical, too little metacognition, not enough right brain, and there's too little metacognition. Now the left brain is going to do whatever it takes to achieve whatever it wants. Okay, like I said, the left brain is very reward driven. So without that metacognition, without the self-awareness and the awareness of others and empathy, the right brain, they become very overconfident, inflated self-image, no self-critique at all because there's no self-awareness. And again, you got narcissists, sociopaths, and psychopaths all lack this. Now, with all of that in mind, let's jump right into right brain anxiety. Now, what we usually see in right brain anxiety is you could have a decreased left hemisphere because it's not balancing, it's not logically talking you down. One of the first things we could look at for anxiety and right brain anxiety is going to be fear or sense of danger. Remember, out in the wild, pretend out in the wild, you hear you're hunting and lots of wolves, lots of bears, and you hear that crack, that sound. Now you've got to decide the fear, right? Am I being hunted, or is that what I'm hunting? Okay. So that fear, that sense of danger makes you very aware of movements you may see, very aware of sounds you may hear to protect you, to keep something from happening. Now imagine fear becomes an override for some reason, and it could be trauma, it could be a history, it could be part of PTSD, trauma related, right? So imagine that fear, that sense of danger, you're always worrying, and that's the right side. You're always worrying that something might happen. If something bad happens, then you're always worrying about it, and then you think, "Wow, I didn't do anything. Something bad happened. It's my fault." You're being way too empathetic, very too self-critiquing. This could even lead into a right brain OCD, where you do stuff out of fear to prevent these imagined actions. You could also do the second big thing would be guilt and shame, right? Guilt, shame, and embarrassment. You're always worried that you did something wrong or you didn't do enough. You didn't do anything right. Now you're worrying about having done something wrong, even when you didn't. And this worry extends to others as it worsens. Oh my God, something happened to them. Or in today's society, the immediacy of information. You text someone, you email someone, and they don't return your text right away. Did I do something wrong? Oh, did I say something wrong? Did I not phrase it correctly? Did I use the wrong emoji? Oh my God, did I capitalize anything? Right? I think those are all the things. And that sets you up again, that fear, that guilt, that shame, embarrassment, that starts, oh my gosh, that self-critique stuff. I feel guilty? Should I be embarrassed about the way I said it? Should I not have brought that up? Okay. And then another one, that leads us right into a fear of rejection. We are hardwired, most of us are hardwired to be part of a group. We see it in good ways and bad ways. And the Quran speaks volumes. How many verses in the Quran warn us about the company we keep? How many hadith did the Prophet ﷺ give us about surrounding ourselves with good people? So that attachment is a big part of the right brain, along with the embarrassment and shame, and that allows us to be very cautious in the way we behave and treat each other well. One of the hadith, or I'll paraphrase, where the Prophet ﷺ was asked about humor, about laughing and being funny. And one of the things he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was not lying in your humor. It's you don't make fun of the brother or sister to be funny. You don't tell lies to try to be humorous and get a laugh. If you're going to be funny, it's got to be a positive funny. Now imagine, combine this fear of rejection with number 2, guilt, shame, and embarrassment. Now you become terrified that you will die, is the anxiety part, if you're rejected from your family, group, or tribe, if they kick you out. That is your right brain. That's a huge right brain anxiety issue. Now, add to that, you've got an overactive right hemisphere. Some of the things you can look at, there's also, you've got your insular cortex and a few things that help us connect with our body. Don't worry about that term. It's just in there. One of the things that you can look at, if you can remember left brain and logically talking yourself down. If you've got a right brain deficiency, or you've got a right brain issue, a right brain overactive, a left brain deficiency, some things that are physical that you can see in our own bodies is being sensitive to smells, being sensitive to taste, real pain sensitive. Oh my gosh, real pain sensitive. Usually, unless it's a left brain strength where you're very pleasure seeking, so you do everything you can to avoid pain. Pain can be a little confusing, but super pain sensitive, a little stub toe and oh my gosh, you think you died. These sensitive smells, sensitive to taste, sensitive to pain are 3 big indicators of a right brain strength. Again, when the right hemisphere is overactive, our sense of awareness, of survival, of self-preservation increases and can lead us into foreboding fear that something bad is going to happen. We can also become over-empathetic for others, or when directed towards ourselves, we become very over-self-critical and self-judgmental. And remember, I mentioned very self-aware, very self-critical. As I mentioned, a lot of people talk about they wear sunglasses so that they avoid that connection. And the eyes are the windows to the soul. So they think they are preventing others from seeing them, really seeing them. And it's a way to hide behind. They can also be hypersensitive to the feelings of shame and increase our fear of rejection. Some areas of the brain that may also be involved are 46 and 9. If you remember from our first talk, dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, right hemisphere, may be overactive. Remember, this area of your brain really controls executive functions, and its location ties very closely into the emotional control. And if that right brain is there, now you're going to be over emotional and overstimulated, hyperactive, hypersensitive, whereas the left brain could be less active, and you can't logically, on the left side of the executive decision making, you can't logically talk yourself out of that. Just because the text didn't come back right away, they don't hate you. You didn't phrase it wrong. They may be at work. They may be driving. Don't text and drive. I tell my kids when they're in the car, don't respond. It's not a huge issue for me. And then this increased right hemisphere and decreased left hemisphericity can make someone overly empathetic and sensitive to others' pain as well as their own, almost like they can read. And this is huge with metacognition. You almost develop a sense of, you can anticipate someone else's emotions. And you can really, on a good note, that's the side, the right brain, your ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes. And that allows us to better fit into a group. But then imagine the right brain is really hyper stimulated. There's a hyper left and a decreased, a hyper right and a decreased left, hyper right, decreased left. That right brain then, with the world, the crises in the world, what's taking place with the genocide in the Middle East right now, that's in the news all the time. A right brain cannot let that go. A balanced right and a balanced left, now we can donate. Now we can share correct information. But an overactive right is not doing enough. It's feeling guilty that it should do more. And it increases the anxiety of what's going on in the world, okay? The left brain then says, do everything you can, but don't let it overwhelm you. That's how they work together. Now, let's go into the left brain anxiety. The left brain, believe it or not, the left brain can also feel anxiety. The left brain with an increased left and a decreased right. Of course, we have some of the physical symptoms, obviously, we've talked about, are generally ADHD, autism, tics, hyperactivity in adults. This usually gets internalized and is diagnosed as a generalized anxiety disorder, especially with males. We're raised, and a lot of women too, hopefully you don't take me as being a chauvinist. The idea is we're raised to do something about everything, right? Or do something. And imagine if I'm on the left, I'm trying to get everything done. I don't complete it. The right brain is not there ramping me down saying, well, the goal is to save this much money to pay for your kid's school. And at the end of the week, oh my God, I don't have it. But I don't have to worry about buying clothes or buying groceries for another 2 weeks. So you can see how that not getting things done, that need, that drive, that reward-driven behavior, if that's excessive, hyperactive, especially in adult males, the research shows, it gets diagnosed as a generalized anxiety disorder. They can't relax. Their mind never shuts down. And again, most of the sisters, oh, that's me too, my mind. I understand that. I'm fine with that. But it's the research shows that men are usually diagnosed more with a general anxiety disorder, whereas women tend to be diagnosed more with a right brain anxiety disorder from that emotional state. And that could be chauvinism in the research, okay? Because guys can get over emotional and really wound up also, right? Sad, embarrassed, and all of that stuff. Left brain anxiety. some indications. Obsessions. That would again be, as we mentioned earlier, imagine your left dorsolateral prefrontal cortex is ramped up. That left brain is going. It's goal directed. It's got to do something. It's demonstrated with compulsions. Obsessive compulsive disorder. It could be even obsessive thoughts. People talking about the same thing over and over and over again, and they just never let go. Definitely a left brain. Obsessive, and then compulsion is usually the behavior part of it. With the right brain deficiency, it can't inhibit blurting out or looking at things from another point of view. They are obsessed. Remember, the left brain is very linear. It likes patterns until that pattern is complete, until they solve that problem or the world's problems, linear, then they never leave it alone. And that doesn't inhibit, and they lose control of their thoughts and actions. And this is what creates the anxiety. This also decreased right hemisphere, left brain, goal-oriented, pattern-seeking, pattern-following behavior, this linear behavior also interferes with a left brain anxiety person understanding other people, right? And the social cues, they don't understand that we may be offering solutions, but they aren't picking up on it. They aren't aware of, they aren't picking up on any of the assistance that someone's trying to give them because they're left hemisphere dominant. They don't pick up on those social clues. The left brain is very logical. Like I said, it's very linear and sequential. It breaks up the world into small pieces, lines them up in a row, and follows that pattern out to make these future predictions. And that's how, imagine if that's what the left brain is strong at, imagine the right brain is not inhibiting anything. And what they'll do is they'll follow that pattern into those predictions that they made. And they are constantly thinking about those predictions and the outcomes that they expect, and they can't stop it. And with that in mind, it could even be a negative outcome because they don't see the solution, if that makes sense. Goal-driven, reward-driven, reward-oriented behavior, and there's no reward because they haven't gotten to the end yet. They're still following that pattern out and pursuing these avenues. They're overthinking. Imagine you can't control that at all. And would that increase some anxiety in your system, right? To improve anxiety, we must improve the hemispheric imbalance. And again, general overview, as always, the information I'm sharing with you, I'll add this, I meant to add it at the beginning. The information I am giving you is just information that you should take to your healthcare professional, whoever is your caregiver, and you can ask them these questions. But if it's just little stuff, if I can say that, you can think about how to strengthen these hemispheres. If you tend to be an overly fearful, overly empathetic, every little thing bothers you, not that it disrupted a pattern, remember that's left, but you get emotionally involved and in a way to benefit society all the time, and any little sad news, for example, the Hallmark TV channel, I've heard all those feel-good movies, all those emotional things. If that's you, then do things to strengthen up the left side of your brain, right? And we've talked about, like I mentioned, the right side of your body. I like something like dribbling a basketball, for example. That's all right brain. Your brain's really having to focus on it. You can sit in a chair and do it. You can stand up and do it. Remember, like I said, if you want to strengthen up the left brain, left smells in the left nostril, listen to the Quran with the phone or your speaker on the right side of your body, because that crosses over. You can, when you're reading the Quran, bring it a little off center and look more left than dead center for a little while. That vision crosses over. These are all things that you can do at home if you're not clinically diagnosed, right? And then the same thing goes, do all that stuff to the opposite side so that you can stimulate the right brain if you're left brain dominant. Let's see. So what we want to do is stimulate the hemisphere that is showing the weakness. If they're obsessed with thoughts, if you're compulsive, if you just can't ramp that stuff down, then stimulate the right. That's the inhibition side. If your right side, like I said, over emotional, stimulate the left. And then you got the colors. You can buy inexpensive $5 tinting or sunglasses, kids' glasses with, if you want to stimulate the left, you're going to do red, orange, and yellow. If you want to stimulate the right brain, you're going to do blue, green, and indigo, and those shades. Does that make sense? And then there's also anxiety, again, is not that simple. I mean, I'm speaking simply, I think, because I really want you to get a general picture that you can take to your primary care physician, because I'm not that person for you. I'm sharing information for educational purposes. The environment can also have a gigantic override. You could have been a very left brain, logical person, but then you're an ex-soldier, or you had a traumatic childhood, multiple traumas in your life, what we call adverse childhood experiences, ACEs. Could be something like a divorce. It could be you witnessed physical abuse, or you experienced physical abuse. You witnessed emotional abuse. You experienced emotional abuse. There's so many things that can override. The environment can override one of those 4 different categories, but one of those is also your attachment style that was trained into you by the time you were 1 year old. Research shows your attachment style has been trained into you by the time approximately 1 year old. Okay. I'm going to give you a definition for each of the 4 attachment styles. And like I said, these could be a great override that may increase left brain or increase right brain in a negative way. The first is the secure style. And obviously, that's just like it sounds. You're very secure. You don't need proof every minute of every day. You don't need gifts. You don't need a lot of public displays of affection. You are very secure in the relationship, and you positively reinforce each other all the time. As we mentioned last week, I'm a big fan of, as I talk to my children, I'm a big fan, and as we confirmed in the Quran and the Hadith, of competing in kindness and racing for good deeds, and the different Hadith and the different verses in the Quran that teach us that. I'm very comfortable, very secure in relationships. And that's with friends and spouses and family. You know, my parents, my mother, and my stepfather did a great job, alhamdulillah, of creating a security, and then you build on that as you grow. Number 2, avoidant and dismissive or anxious avoidant behavior or attachment styles. And I'll start these in children, okay? In children, because in adults, they add more terms to it, but see how this fits for you. So avoidant, dismissive, or anxious avoidant in children. These are people, kids in particular, but these are people that fail to bring build long-term relationships with others due to an inability to exchange in physical and emotional intimacy. This is usually developed from strict, or emotionally distant or absent caregivers. Overridingly strict, and we can all determine how that is, or emotionally distant or completely absent caregivers. This person usually has a very strong sense of independence, and they think they're strong enough that they don't need other people. But a lot of times this is based on they have a hard time trusting others. This lack of intimacy, emotional and physical intimacy, the hugs from a parent, the love, the parent that says, oh, you can achieve whatever you want to, I love you, all of these things that should be expressed that our religion teaches. that they should be there and they're not. Number 3, anxious or preoccupied or anxious ambivalence. This is a fear of rejection or abandonment. And remember, the word in this one clearly is anxious. Anxious preoccupied or anxious ambivalence. This is a fear of rejection and abandonment, and it depends on this person is always in need of validation from their partner. They need the constant verbal, physical reinforcement. Maybe it's gifts, whatever it is. It's constantly in need of reinforcement. All of that, whether, like I said, whether it's verbal, physical, or gifts, for example, as a validation, and mainly not just the relationship, but that they're valuable, that they are important in this relationship, and it validates them as individuals, not just within the relationship, but they are in need of validation for themselves. And then number 4, disorganized or fearful avoidance. Hugely important. Extremely inconsistent behavior, difficulty trusting others. This usually develops from childhood trauma, neglect, or abuse. And the neglect can actually be from earlier, where we talked about the avoidant and dismissive and anxious avoidant, with the parents that were emotionally or physically not there. So you've got neglect can be a great override in both of these. And again, this is a lot of the childhood trauma too, as I mentioned earlier with your ACEs. And then, like I said, a big thing, again, to close for today before I take any questions, we really want to think about the balance in hemisphericity. I talk about that all the time because there are so many things from the previous lectures. And as I put these together, I'm always thinking about how, wow, I learned that in one of Imam Ibrahim's classes, or I learned that hadith, I learned that verse in the Quran about being in the right crowd, surrounding yourself with good people. You're one of the things when I think about the attachment styles and how then we grow into left brain, strong independence, or right brain, needy, fearful, avoidant, right? How that can actually be established in our childhood. And then if we see it in ourselves, how can I train that out? Because most of these difficulties, you may need therapy. You can need professional help. And I'm cool with professional help. I'm not saying you do it by yourself. Many of us need outside involvement. I'm fine with that. This is only for information. But you can look at yourself and measure self-awareness, right brain stuff. You're going to measure any potential shortcomings you have. Your left brain, you say, I don't have any shortcomings. Well, maybe that's a shortcoming. Maybe they say, oh, you don't laugh at the joke. You don't get the joke. You don't get the sarcasm. You don't pick up the metaphors. And I might say it's raining cats and dogs, and severe autism might peek out the window and say, no, it's not. It's raining water. But it's raining a lot. Well, that's what I meant by cats and dogs. And why didn't you just say that, right? So there's an exaggeration. The idea is you can look at all of this stuff with anxiety, with your attachment styles, see where you fit, and see if that's not something that you can physically change. Earlier today, I thought, again, I'll take it right out of the drawer. I keep jewelry. And my kids actually bought me a watch recently because I talk about stimulation. And if I wanted to be today, I want to be, because the way I wrote things down is very linear and very patterned, right? It's very sequential. So I could put the ring, and when we get the watch fitted, you'll see me wear a ring on my left hand and a watch on my left arm, trying to stimulate more of a big picture. If I want to control and not get carried away with my talking, I might put it on my right side and be more linear and less big picture, more sharing information. Does that make sense? So literally, if you wear jewelry, you can actually switch sides with that jewelry, unless, of course, it represents something emotional. I think what wedding bands are left, whatever it is. But the idea is literally you can switch sides with the jewelry to actually stimulate whatever hemisphere you're trying to stimulate. Um, when I put it on my hand, when I'm typing or I'm talking, I tend to, the reason I didn't wear it today, believe it or not, is I thought about it and decided not to, because I tend to bring it up and play with it and get even more stimulation. But then I tend to bring it up high enough, and in the camera views, there's a covering of the face and mouth, and I want you to be able to see me when I talk. So literally, it's something as simple as that that I do on a regular basis, especially when I'm working by myself. I'll stimulate the side of the brain where I'm really trying to get something done. The big picture. We're working on a couple of lectures right now, so I tend to left hand, right brain that stuff, and that's going to be the big picture, more emotional, more big picture, long term, and then the right hand. Now I want the details, the logic, the steps, and make the talk. That's a good opportunity to break my conversation right there. Let's hear some questions if you have anything. And again, let me make a big deal about when I say something, it's literally not, don't let it be diagnostic for you. Take a big general, big picture look at this. Would it make sense to incorporate this stuff in your lifestyle? And these are also questions. If you've got severe symptoms of something, take them to your medical. Whether it's anxiety, all these things should be taken care of within the structure of your professional. Whereas I'm just giving you ideas and education on how to share this. And if you see any little, like I tend to lean right. So a lot of the things I do, I mean, lean towards my right hemisphere. So a lot of things I do to stimulate my left hemisphere, like short-term attention focus. I'm the big idea guy, my computer guy. He is very strong left brain, real smart guy, mashallah. And we go, the way he speaks and thinks is different than the way I speak and think. So he really gives me a lot of stimulation, mental stimulation, and a different viewpoint, just because of our differences, his strengths and my strengths, and we jive well. You can do that same thing with yourself by, if you're a right brain emotional person, do things to stimulate your left brain. And if your left brain unemotional, you don't make a lot of contact with people, you don't get jokes kind of thing, stimulate your right brain. But take all this information to your healthcare practitioner. I think that was what turned off.
But if we don't have insurance, brother Muhammad Abdurrahman, if we don't have insurance,
boy, that's tough. That's hard, because if the override for me is my information is accurate, but I don't know enough about you. If someone's not a patient, I don't know enough to, like, I can't diagnose over the phone or over Zoom. Does that make sense? And if you don't have insurance, you can certainly hit a local clinic. For example, I have insurance, but I don't have a direct medical provider. If I ever need medical care or in a medical opinion, I literally go to the clinic here in my hometown. They charge me whatever my copay is, and I see the medical doctor there. Alhamdulillah, I don't have anything really bad going on. Like I said, I replaced my knees at the same time, right? I did a bilateral knee replacement, and I went to the hospital, and the surgeon needed blood work done to make sure it's safe. I don't have any hidden unhealthy secrets. And I went to the clinic here, told them what I needed. The doctor gave me an exam. She sent me for blood work. When she got the blood work back, we went over it together. She cleared me for surgery. I sent that paperwork to my surgeon, and I was cleared for surgery. So even though I didn't have a medical provider, I went right to the clinic here in town, is how I do most of my healthcare that's outside of my scope of practice.
Okay, Sister Layla's coming. She has to get another computer. But she said you have a lot of questions, so a lot of people has a lot of questions.
I'm gonna need y'all to help. Y'all gonna have to use the mic when I'm streaming, because what happened to make the sound cut off when I'm streaming, I can't talk and stream. And I was trying to turn the stream mic off so I could I got a bunch of questions, but it wouldn't work. So I'm gonna need help in the Zoom room. I need somebody to talk on Zoom. Okay, somebody with a good accent. So get on the mic, Layla. So now I'm on a different computer, but I can't see the questions because I'm not in the stream. Oh God, how I'm gonna do this? Let me figure this out. Okay, I think I remember one question that one of the brothers had. Then I'll just run back in the other room and look at that other computer. Let me think. What did he ask? It was about. I got a photographic memory. Hold on, let me try to dig it out. He was asking about Amir. Hold on, let me get it together. I got to dig in my brain. He wanted to know what's part of his. I think he was asking what part of the brain can he stimulate because he's afraid of being hurt. He's afraid of being let down. He's afraid of being disappointed. I think he said that's the if I can remember, that's the anxiety he has. So how can he stimulate that part of the brain? And while you answer, I'm going to run to the other room so I can see.
Take your time. With that, the key, I think, brother, if it's not correct, if I'm not interpreting it correctly, rephrase it and ask again. The key there is that fear of disappointment, that fear of being let down, that fear of all of these things. It involves other people. So that usually indicates that you are socially, you're strong right brain. You're worried about all this stuff from outside, from other people. So what you'd want to do, the simple stuff would be to strengthen the left brain. Now you can logic yourself out of it. How important is it? So what if they let you down? The left brain would tell you push through it and do it yourself then. Or I'm being simple. Don't think I don't mean to sound rude. It just occurred to me I sounded rude. The idea is if you're worried about the other people, then you're probably stronger right, and you're not letting the logic, the achieving the goals, like what about being let down is really setting you off and preventing you from doing things, if that makes sense. That's what you want to look at. So from my perspective, so I would actually say strengthen the left brain, and that's right-sided activities, wearing the jewelry, or like if that's okay with you, a ring or the watch, or those really cool wood beads. I like those a lot. They look really cool, and they look on my patients. They look like they move a lot. My kids have them. That would provide a lot of right body, left brain stimulation. Stimulating the left nostril with smells. The left brain is also red, orange, and yellow colors. You could sounds in the right ear, crossing over to the left brain. Like I said, left brain is going to be right lateral vision, or right-sided vision. So when you're reading, don't look at it straight in like this. Move it off to the side a little bit so it's not too awkward, and do it as long as you can. Like I said, just take a ball and dribble it off the floor if you're not on a second floor apartment, or your family won't mind. Dribble a ball with your right hand, then try to get good at it and bring it side to side, front to back, just dribble. Stand on your right leg, right for the right cerebellum, left brain. Things like that. Anything to stimulate the left brain.
Okay, another sister here.
Also, the brother, you can be in Tuesday, Brother Muhammad Ziyada, he's a counselor, I see. And he's good actually with this. He deal with this a lot. You can ask Brother Muhammad, inshallah, this question also.
Inshallah. Alhamdulillah. Sister?
Okay, another sister here, one of the young sisters here. She says she suffers with anxiety to the point whereas even if she's learning here at the website, certain things, like if she's learning about paradise or she's learning about hell, she doesn't know how to balance it, where she doesn't get scared, or if she hears about the signs of the last hour, or she hears about death or anything, she takes it on a higher level. And her mother has always told her, she said, to balance.
Mm-hmm.
What would you recommend for her? She gets scared, like she was scared about what's going on in the world. She can't watch, what is this? She can't watch the TV news.
No, I don't recommend that anyway.
So how does a person like her balance her anxiety?
Again, I'm not the therapist, but there are two things there. Remember the first one, the Sahaba used to cry when they'd hear these verses. Cry. So I got to tell you, if you are feeling and reading and it's Islamically, and if it's Islamically correct, and you're reading Quran and some of these verses really hit you and make you cry, remember Allah is going to reward you for taking that to heart and believing his verses, because he delivered them specifically for you, sister, and for me, and for specifically every individual that's listening right now. God revealed the Quran for every living human being from the time it was revealed through to today, to the time of judgment. So number one, let me commend you on the fact that you are probably feeling even more fear than I do. You are right there with the Sahaba, grown warriors, men and women, going to war and fighting and risking death all the time. And they used to cry when they'd hear these verses, or they'd read them, and reading them multiple times and hearing them in multiple lectures and talks around the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They would cry. So the fear makes sense. The other point is stimulate the left side, right? If you feel it's really overly much. If you feel the right side is too strong, again, start stimulating the left side. Right body actions, red, orange, yellow colors, smells in the left nostril, sensations on the right side. Buy a cheap TENS unit, electrical, $40. If you don't have a pacemaker or it won't disrupt your system, put it on your leg, put it on your back, large muscle groups. That sends a lot of information, and turn it up a teeny tiny bit so that you can just barely feel it. That way your left brain is aware of it. Do right body complicated movements. This infinity movement is a left brain movement. Complicated movement. So you need this, and then you do it bigger, and then you can do it with your leg, which you can't see on me, but you can stimulate the left brain. And then remember, read when you're reading. That's a huge left brain activity. Read the details of the letters, read the word, read the sentence. That's a huge, just reading is a huge left brain activity, which is really important. Then you can also maybe write the stuff. If you're right-handed, start writing down your favorite verses that bring you joy. Use that to balance, right? Because remember, Allah chose you, and if you're a Muslim, it doesn't matter what happens in the world right now. I'm logical, making it logical again. It doesn't matter what happens in this world. When you die, when I die, when we all die, if Allah accepts our Islam, and as long as La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, and you don't commit shirk, and there's Islamic scholars that can give you even more details, you've been chosen by Allah. No matter what happens in the world today, you can be blessed with heaven. You can be blessed with Jannah because of your fear of the hellfire. And with that, this short-term struggle, suffering, and I know it's hard. I know plenty of people have harder lives than I do, all that stuff. I understand that. But remember, when it ends, if you die and Allah accepts your Islam, right? You're a Muslim. You La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. You will be blessed with heaven. Use that logical side that of the blessings of Islam rather than just the curse of the hellfire. Because you have been blessed. Again, you've been blessed with a book that gives you everything you need to know. Okay? I hear these advertisements that talk about it's a shame we don't have a book on how to live our lives. Those commercials drive me crazy because I know we have a book on how to live our life. And we have the hadith that explain any confusing parts of it. And we have plenty of scholars that can teach us too if you find a good scholar. So that's how I would answer that question.
And also, Sister Layla, if you put the Surah Al-Ra'd, the thunder, Surah Al-Ra'd, ayah number 27, Allah said, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الذين آمنوا وتطمئن قلوبهم بذكر الله ألا بذكر الله تطمئن القلوب. All you the believer, when they mention the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, their heart become humble. And with the dhikr, your heart becomes more peace and tranquility. The dhikr, remember Allah, subhanallah, subhanallah wa bihamdi, subhanallah walhamdulillah wa la ilaha illallah. That always remember Allah, that you don't have to have, is not conditioned to have wudu. You don't have to be in the direction of the qibla. Anytime, sleeping, sitting, see something bad, always remember Allah. You'll feel your heart so humble, tranquility and peace.
Tranquility and peace, yes.
Yes. Sister Layla, go Surah Al-Ra'd, 27, Surah Al-Ra'd.
Yeah, inshallah. Write that down, sister.
28, sorry, 28. Yeah, inshallah.
Okay, here's another question from another sister. You know, I'm in a different room, so I'm trying to read it. Y'all, this room is dark. I don't use this computer much. Okay, her question is, how can I sleep? She said, I have been diagnosed with ADHD. I have multiple personalities, and I am on 20 different types of medications due to my mental illnesses, my mental health. She said, but I still can only sleep 2 hours. Is there something I can do to stimulate a side of the brain so I can sleep more than 2 hours?
Woo! That is a lot. Let's talk about some recent research and don't anybody be mad at me, exercise. There's recent research came out of Stanford this year, last year, right? Within the last 12 months. I think it was last 12 months. Out of Stanford University, talking about or explaining the percentages of benefit for even right down to individual organs. And they broke it down into looking at cells and exercise and what was improved. And something as simple as, sister, this is answer your question, something as simple as brisk walking. And brisk walking could be taken as whether you're fast or slow, it's the effort you're putting into it. Anything to elevate your heart rate a little bit, increase your respiration a little bit. Exercise is, without commenting on any medications or anything, exercise will give you a physical reason to nod off more at night because you're in physical need of that. Number two, exercise also causes, down to the cellular level, exercise causes change in the cells with the mitochondria, with the motor in there. ATP is the energy that we all use. Cells use as energy. It caused change right down to making energy for the cell, is how important exercise was. And they said as simple as 30 minutes of brisk walking. Other than that, I wouldn't want to comment because all the medications and the different diagnoses, it's a lot of it really sounds like almost all of it is going to be outside of my scope of practice. But I can safely, if your health is okay, I can recommend exercise. And again, clear that with your healthcare practitioner to see if you're healthy enough that you can walk. If nothing else, if you can get one of those chair wheels for a few dollars to sit in front of the chair if you got injuries or joint issues. But talk to your medical professional and ask them if you can fit exercise into your routine. The research is there. If you wanted to, go to Stanford University in California, their website, and see if you can't pull up the research article or type it into search and see if you can't get research out of Stanford University about exercise.
Alhamdulillah. Here's another question. Sister here wants to know, puzzles and the likes are good for which side of the brain?
That's a good question. I have a hard time with puzzles, putting together puzzles. But what you can do is, this is really cool. You'll see some people, they look at the picture and they figure out where the colors are, okay? And they put puzzles together that way. So what they're doing is they're using a big picture approach, and they'll move the puzzle pieces around based on colors, and then they'll get more and more specific. That's the big picture idea. Other people like to look at a picture and figure out a corner and grow it from one side, grow it from the top down. They're actually trying to find the pattern of the picture, if that makes sense, and put the pieces together that way. So puzzles can work both sides. If you want to see why I say, and I agree with Dr. Malillo, who I always talk about, why I agree with Dr. Malillo, you want to see something really impressive about strong left brain and why, picture flipping the puzzle over, why it can be a strength. It has to be literally, if you can raise, that's why I say you don't want to deal with the left side strength, if that makes sense. You want to deal with the right side and make it catch up. For example, autistic kids that can learn to play the piano, or as we talked about, a puzzle. Imagine how left brain this is, that kids can turn the puzzle upside down and put it together based on the pieces. Not even looking at the picture, but seeing the pattern, spreading the pieces out and pulling pieces out and putting them together and getting it correct upside down. That is genius level skill, isn't it? Very left brain, very focused, very goal oriented. They won't stop till they finish. But think about the pattern seeking that left brain does, and turning. You could even do it with small puzzles at first. Try putting them together upside down based on the little pieces. And then I can't imagine. But That's the puzzle can work both sides of the brain depending on how you use it. And then you can also shift it to, if you want to stimulate the left brain safely, stand on the right leg and use your right hand to move the pieces. Maybe keep a chair right next to you so that you don't fall. All right. So put the chair right next to you, stand on your right leg and do it with right hand. Okay. And then if you're trying to stimulate the left brain, slide the puzzle off to the picture part of it, slide the picture over here that you're working from so that you're looking out of the right side of your vision. If you want to stimulate the right brain, do it to the other side. Stand on the left leg, slide the puzzle picture to your left so that everything crosses over, and then put it together with your left hand, right? Little piece, put it down, little piece, put it down, and that'll stimulate the right brain. So yeah, puzzles are really cool. And I love those for people at the end of the program. You know, if we're doing a week-long intensive with someone, that's not the beginning. That's high level. And if you do puzzles already, do it that way because you're already there, right? So this will make it better. This is what I do with, imagine I'm working with an elite level athlete or a lot of the high school and college athletes. They're high level functioning. So I'm trying to make them even higher level functioning. Okay. So you want to make good great, or you want to make that right side as great as the left side. Does that make sense, or vice versa? So that's how I use puzzles.
Okay, and this is my last question from off of there. Sister here wants to know if you have OCD and your OCD is the kind that you want to do things a certain amount of times, a certain way. She said, which side of the brain or which hemisphere of the brain is that?
If your OCD is obsessive compulsive and it's not so much, we'll divide it out. You typically, OCD is typically a left brain over left. You have to follow this pattern. You got to do it. You got to do it. You got to do it. If it's a right brain difficulty, it's usually if I don't do it, something horrible will happen. Imagine if I can give you a little example. I lock the door. Boom. I lock the door. I know I'm safe. How does locking the door 5 times make you more safe? Okay, so that's the fear side. That would tell me it's a right brain issue. I want to strengthen the left. If it's an excessive compulsive, I'm just patterned. I have to do it 5 times or I don't consider it done. Then that's a left brain's dominance, and I've got to strengthen the right brain. Does that make sense? So you decide which kind of OCD you have. Is it right brain? If I don't do it 5 times, something horrible will happen. If I don't do it 5 times, it's not done correctly. That's left. Does that make sense? So that's first you decide that, and then you stimulate the side of the brain that's weaker. If it's a fear thing, you want to stimulate the left side and say, I only have to lock it once to be safe. Train it out. Lock the door, sit there and look at the door until you're so safe, you know you don't have to do it. It's a left brain thing. If it's too left brain, lock the door once and look at the door and see that it doesn't unlock by itself. So you logical it out. Does that make sense? So if that doesn't make sense, certainly you guys type the questions down and ask me again on the next episode.
Yeah, and just for that one, because I have the type of OCD I have is germ phobic. If somebody coughs and if I don't cover my face, I'm gonna get their sickness. That's right brain, right?
Usually, yeah.
That's why I figure that's right brain. The fear of getting sick or fear of getting what they have if I don't cover my face if they cough or sneeze.
I gotta tell you, for me, I think that's a strength, though.
That's my thing, because I can't be around anybody that coughs, sneezes. If they don't cover up, I'm out the house, out the room. Yeah, that's why I'll put a mask on. Yeah. Okay, any other that's all the questions I have here from YouTube, and Facebook. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Okay, well, this was a very enlightening lecture. Next week, they're asking, what are you going to speak about next week? This was great.
We have two choices. One, I'll give them both to you, and then y'all can type in. One choice would be Imam Ibrahim and I are working on a goal setting lecture, how to achieve your goals using neurology, and tying that in with Ibrahim will give me some Quran and Hadith, because for me, and the example I will use in that lecture when I finally do it, is Islam lays it out for us. It's so clean for me. Islam is the perfect lifestyle, and you'll just see. So we could do a goal lecture. That's pending tying in all the Quran and Hadith correctly. The other lecture, and one of the reasons I want to do it now is because most people set these westernized New Year's goals. It's easy, January, blah, blah, blah. We don't have to argue about calendars. The idea is it's such a great override in society that January is fine with me. I don't care. With that in mind, or if you want to go with our calendar and blah, 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 I'm fine with that too. When it comes up, most people fall apart and fall off their goals at about 2 weeks in, and usually within the first 30 days. So I'm thinking we do a goal-oriented short lecture related to neurology in this first month of January. The other lecture choice we have is pulling out specific verses, biblical verses that I think we should all know. And like, we can jump back to the religion. We won't leave. Neither one of them are closed doors because I'm going to do them both. Right. We just have to fit them in where we decide to. So you can.
That's perfect. Which one are you covered? Everybody's into your, as you can see on all our social platforms, you get the most views. Everybody, your stuff, and Dr. Assam, you and Dr. Assam, the scientist,
my man,
y'all getting the most views. So everybody loves this stuff. So
what we can do is, and we started my computer guy. One of the things we talked about today, I say that because he's just great at it. Real nice guy. He started my YouTube channel.
Okay.
And it's Dr. McBride at YouTube, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's Doctor with the word, Dr. McBride at YouTube, or Dr. Dan McBride at YouTube, at YT. I'm sorry, YT at YouTube.
Yeah.
But I remember. If you want to look it up. Your videos, literally your classes, I'm getting hits like he's really impressed, because what we're doing with the Sunnahfollowers is getting like growth the minute the video goes up, even though it's only like, you posted 2 videos or at, I don't know how you read the numbers. I think you said 800 views and 20 followers, and
you go in 2 hours. Boy,
I know.
I put you up. You and Dr. Assam, because y'all are talking about what not just the Muslims. You got a lot of non-Muslims listening, because this stuff relates to the Christianity stuff for them, and also this brain stuff is everybody. And Dr. Assam, his classes are the same. He takes the Quran. He'll take one Quranic verse, but it's talking about everyday life, and that's why I think he's getting the hits too.
I love that stuff. That's what.
Yeah, you and him have a way of doing that. Cool. He's a professor too, so he knows how to do stuff. And you're a doctor, a real doctor, y'all know. So anything, whatever. We want them all here. So because it's just popular. Your classes are popular. So which one would you like for next week? You want to do the goal setting first?
Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't we tie it directly into the neurology, and we'll do a goal setting. It won't be the full class that I'm trying to put together to teach, but it's almost done today. So I could do that Thursday, in terms of, you could title it Neurology, Islam, and Achieving Your Goals or something.
Yeah, that's what I'm writing.
Okay, cool. And then what we'll do is the other ones, already.
Yeah,
Yeah,
when
and
you're
then
ready, we'll do
yeah.
them when you're ready with them
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
But this one
absolutely.
is great. You got a
Inshallah.
lot of
That's
people
what
in
we'll
here
do then.
listening now too. So
Okay.
yeah, the non-Muslims, I saw your comments. They say they enjoy you too. You got a lot of your people are the same field of you on Twitter.
Yeah.
I have a lot of neurologists that are following you, that are listening here now and putting comments on
I appreciate
what you're saying. You have a lot of other people of your trade.
Well, we really have to, if particularly with people we would say believe in God. There's only one God. He created all of us, and we all start with Adam and Eve. For the atheists, hopefully my religion side isn't boring because it lays the groundwork for everything I do is the faith. But I want it really should appeal to all of us. This should be like what you're doing, and you let me know if I stop becoming beneficial, because I want to be like what you're doing and appeal and be a benefit to everyone. It should be a benefit to all of us, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, like I said, I enjoy the classes too.
Mashallah.
Okay, guys. So next week, that's what we're going to do. We're going to have the topic. I'm going to make it up, make another poster and make it up. It sound a little better, but we'll be talking about neurology in Islam, and achieving your goals or whatever in Islam and how the brain works with that. That'll be next week. So same time, same day, and make sure you guys share us with their other people on your social media platforms. And, non-Muslims are welcome to these classes. I got a bunch of you in here, so you're welcome to continue to join. And inshallah, I'm going to close out for now. Oh, let me remind you guys, at 8:30, we have Sheikh Saud. Sheikh Saud's doing his class at 8:30, and my class on the Mecca-Hasidic Tafsir is at 9:30. So 2 more classes tonight, inshallah. So I want to thank everybody for joining, and I'm going to run to the other computer to cut it off. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. See you guys in an hour, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Wa alaikum salam.
Walaikum salam.